The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
All right, so we're diving into Medicare today,
Yeah.
and really specifically looking at all this stuff that's changing in 2025.
Yeah.
You've given us some interesting excerpts to work with from Medicare.gov, and then this Medicare and You 2025 handbook.
Yeah.
And it seems like you really want to get a grip on how Medicare works in the first place,
Yes.
but then also be prepared for what's coming.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people I talk to, they think Medicare is this big, scary thing.
Oh, totally.
And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It's really just like
Like a puzzle.
yeah, exactly. A puzzle with different parts that fit together.
Yeah.
And once you understand what each piece does,
Right.
you know what it costs, how those costs could change year to year,
Right.
it becomes much less intimidating.
It's like deciphering a secret code almost.
In a way, yeah.
So we've got Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. Like, what is the deal with all these pieces?
Okay, so think of Part A as your safety net, okay? This is for hospital stays, inpatient care, skilled nursing, hospice care, even some home health services.
No, that's when you're really unwell and you need that higher level of care.
Exactly.
What about just like regular checkups, going to the doctor?
That's where Part B kicks in.
Okay.
Your regular medical insurance doctor visits, outpatient care, those important screenings and shots, even durable medical equipment.
And I saw in the handbook that Part B covers some things that you might not expect. Like it can help with certain diabetes supplies
Right.
and even mental health counseling. I had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people are surprised by that, which is why it's so important to really dig into the details
Yeah,
of each part
for sure.
so that you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
And then you've got Part C and D, and those are a little different.
Yeah, so in the Medicare and You 2025 handbook, they call Part C Medicare Advantage,
Right.
and they're calling it the all-in-one option.
Yes.
Like, what does that actually mean?
So Medicare Advantage plans are offered by private insurance companies, but they work with Medicare, and they have to provide at least the same level of service as original Medicare,
Okay,
which is your Part A and Part B.
gotcha.
But they often will offer extra benefits as well.
Additional benefits. Now you're speaking my language.
Right. So think vision, dental, hearing. Some even have wellness programs.
Wow.
And a big one, some plans actually include prescription drug coverage, which is usually Part D.
Oh, so Part D, that's the prescription drug part.
Exactly. Part D is how Medicare tackles those prescription drug costs.
Okay,
But just like Part C, it's also managed through private insurance plans.
gotcha.
So you choose the plan that suits your needs and your budget.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense now.
Good.
But you mentioned costs changing year to year.
Yeah.
So for 2025, what are some of the things that people should be prepared for in terms of cost and what these different parts of Medicare will actually cover?
That's a great question. And, staying informed about these changes is so important.
Right.
And one of the biggest changes coming in 2025 is actually about Part D.
Okay.
Specifically, prescription drug costs.
Okay.
Your out-of-pocket costs are going to be capped at $2,000 a year.
Wow. That's huge.
It is huge, especially for people who rely on expensive medications.
Yeah.
That could be a game changer for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And there was something else I think you mentioned about spreading out Part D costs throughout the year with like monthly payments starting in 2025.
Yeah. So that's a brand new payment option, and it's called the Medicare Prescription Payment Plan.
Okay.
It works alongside your existing Part D plan to help manage those out-of-pocket costs throughout the year
Great.
instead of it all hitting you at once.
Yeah.
So basically, rather than paying the entire cost at the pharmacy,
Right.
you'll get a monthly bill from your drug plan for a portion of your prescription costs.
So it's not about saving you money overall. It's more of a budgeting tool to make it
Exactly.
more
Manageable.
Exactly. It's all about making life a little bit easier.
Right.
Especially for folks on a fixed income.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're looking at different Part D plans.
Yeah, that's incredibly helpful.
Good.
Okay, so we've talked about the different parts of Medicare, like what they are.
Yeah.
But how do you actually sign up for Medicare? Is it just like as simple as turning 65 and boom, you're in?
Not quite. It's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
While turning 65 is definitely a trigger point,
Yeah.
it's not quite as simple as just boom, you're in.
Okay.
And understanding those different enrollment periods is really important.
Okay.
Because it could actually save you from some penalties down the line.
Penalties. Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these enrollment periods.
Okay.
Starting with the one when you turn 65.
So that's called your initial enrollment period.
Okay.
And it's a 7-month window
Okay.
that opens up around your 65th birthday. So it starts 3 months before your birthday month,
Right.
includes your birthday month, and goes 3 months after.
Go.
So that's your prime time to sign up for Part A and or Part B without any fuss.
Okay, so let's say someone misses that window.
Yeah.
Are they locked out of Medicare forever? Like, what happens?
Not forever, but it might cost them.
Okay.
That's where these other enrollment periods come in.
Okay.
So you've got something called a special enrollment period,
Okay.
and that's usually triggered by a specific life event,
Okay.
like if you lose your employer coverage or if you move out of your plan's service area.
So the Medicare and You 2025 handbook also mentions a 5-star special enrollment period. Is
Yeah.
that the same thing?
That one's a little different.
Okay.
So that's like this exclusive club.
Okay.
If you are already in a Medicare Advantage plan and it earns a 5-star quality rating from Medicare,
Okay.
you get this special window from December 8th to November 30th the following year to switch to another 5-star plan.
Oh, so it's not a life sentence if you've already signed up.
Exactly.
You have options.
Exactly. Life happens, your needs change.
Right.
Medicare gets that. These special enrollment periods give you that flexibility
Good to know.
to adjust without the stress of those penalties.
Okay, so what if someone missed all those boats? Is there like a last chance saloon?
There is. It's called the General Enrollment Period,
Okay.
and it runs from January 1st to March 31st each year.
Okay.
Think of it as the catch-all period for anyone who missed those initial or special enrollment deadlines.
Okay.
But the catch with this one is that you might end up paying higher premiums for Part A and or Part B because of that late enrollment.
So it sounds like understanding these different enrollment periods is really crucial
Yes,
to make sure that you've got coverage when you need it
absolutely.
and, avoid those surprise costs.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to really start thinking about Medicare
Yeah,
before you actually need it.
that's great advice. Yeah, I feel like we put it off
Yeah.
thinking about it because it's like,
It's scary,
yeah, exactly.
but it's better to be prepared.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so we talked about Part A, Part B. Let's circle back to Medicare Advantage for a minute.
Okay.
Part C.
Yes.
And you mentioned that these plans are run by these private insurance companies.
Right.
They might offer these extra perks. Like, how does that actually work?
Yeah, so there are actually different types of Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay.
And each one has its own set of rules and coverage details.
Gotcha.
It's about finding the one that fits you best, like finding the right pair of shoes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the handbook mentioned HMOs and PPOs.
Yes.
Are those some of the different, styles
Yes.
of Medicare Advantage?
So HMOs or health maintenance organizations.
Okay.
Those are your stay-in-network type of plan.
Okay.
They usually require you to see doctors and hospitals within their network,
Okay.
and you'll typically choose a primary care physician
Right.
who kind of acts as your healthcare quarterback.
So if you have an HMO and you go rogue and see a doctor outside of the network,
Yeah, that could get pricey.
will they cover it at all?
Yeah. HMOs are generally very strict about that.
Okay.
They'll usually only cover out-of-network care in emergency situations.
Okay.
So if you decide to go out-of-network for non-emergency care, you'll likely be on the hook for the full bill.
Which can add up.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. That makes sense. What about PPOs? I feel like I hear that a lot.
Yes. Preferred provider organizations, or PPOs, those offer a bit more freedom.
Okay.
You still have a network of providers, but you have the option to go out-of-network
Okay.
if you are willing to pay a higher copayment or coinsurance.
Okay.
So it's a good choice for people who want a bit more control over their healthcare providers.
Okay.
And they don't mind the potential extra cost.
Gotcha. I like having options, so that's good.
Yes, absolutely.
The handbook also mentioned something called medical savings account plans.
Yes, MSAs.
MSAs, those are interesting.
They sound kind of cool.
They're like the adventurous option.
Okay.
So they combine a high-deductible health plan
Okay.
with a savings account.
Medicare actually puts money into this account,
Oh, wow.
and you can use that money to pay for your healthcare expenses.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a bit more hands-on
Okay.
when it comes to managing your healthcare spending.
So you're kind of in the driver's seat a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, with great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
You need to be comfortable managing your own budget
Okay.
and potentially facing higher out-of-pocket costs before that coverage kicks in.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's a trade-off.
Right.
For sure.
Are there any other types of Medicare Advantage plans that we should have on our radar?
There's a couple more. We've got private fee-for-service plans.
Okay.
Or PFFS plans.
Okay.
Those are less common,
Okay.
but they essentially give you the freedom to see any doctor or hospital
Okay.
that's Medicare approved and accepts the plan's payment terms.
Okay.
And then we've got special needs plans.
Yeah.
or SNPs.
Yes, the SMPs, those were in the materials too.
Yeah, so SNPs are designed for people with specific health challenges or circumstances.
Yeah.
Think chronic illnesses. Or if you're eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay,
They offer more tailored benefits
got it.
and coordinated care to address those unique needs.
This is amazing. I had no idea that there were so many options
There are a lot.
within Medicare Advantage,
Yes, it's not one size fits all.
which is fantastic.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to really do your research,
Right,
read the fine print, compare those plans,
for sure.
think about what matters most to you.
Yeah,
Look at the network, the services they cover, and of course the cost.
right.
And make sure it aligns with your own healthcare goals.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about, prescription drug coverage.
Yes,
And how a lot of Medicare Advantage plans just kind of bundle that in.
you do.
So what if you choose a plan that doesn't include that? Are you just like out of luck when it comes to your prescriptions?
Not at all.
Okay.
So with some Medicare Advantage plans like those MSAs and some PFFS plans, you can join a separate Part D plan.
Okay.
But you need to keep in mind that if you choose an HMO or PPO that doesn't cover drugs, you won't be able to just join a standalone Part D plan.
So it's really about weighing your options and figuring out,
Exactly.
do you want it bundled or do we want to do a separate plan?
Exactly. And remember, when it comes to prescriptions, knowledge is power.
Yes.
Understand you know what your medication needs are, how they fit into a plan's formulary, which is just their list of covered drugs,
Right.
because it can really make a difference.
You mentioned formularies, and the handbook talked about something called drug tiers,
Yeah.
which sounded a little confusing.
It sounds a little intimidating, but it's not that complicated.
Okay, good.
Think of drug tiers like levels in a video game.
Okay.
Each tier represents a different cost-sharing structure
Okay.
within a plan's formulary.
Gotcha.
So generally, the drugs on the lower tiers, like your everyday generic medications,
Right.
those are going to have lower copays or coinsurance.
Okay.
But as you move up those tiers
Yeah.
to those brand name drugs or specialty medications, that cost sharing is going to get higher too.
So if it's a higher tier, I'm probably paying more out of pocket.
Generally,
Yeah.
but there are exceptions.
Okay.
Let's say your doctor believes that you need a higher tier drug
Right.
and there's not a similar, more affordable option on a lower tier.
Yeah.
They can actually advocate for you, request an exception from your plan
Oh, wow. Okay.
to get you a lower cost sharing for that specific medication.
So there's room for like negotiation there?
There can be, yes.
Okay, good to know.
Don't be afraid to ask.
The handbook also mentioned something called prior authorization,
Yes.
which honestly sounded a little intimidating.
It's not as scary as it sounds. It just means that for certain medications, usually higher tier ones or ones with very specific usage guidelines,
Okay.
your plan wants to make sure it's absolutely necessary before they agree to cover it.
Okay.
So your doctor might need to get the okay from your plan first.
So it's like a safety check to make sure
Oh, yeah.
everything's legit.
Exactly. It might seem like an extra hoop to jump through,
Yeah.
but it's really there to keep those costs down
Okay.
and make sure those medications are being used appropriately,
That makes sense.
finding that balance.
What about step therapy? Is that related to prior authorization?
They're both kind of cost control measures, but they work a little differently.
Okay.
Step therapy means you might need to try one or two similar but more affordable drugs
Okay.
before the plan agrees to cover the one your doctor originally prescribed.
So starting with the basics and then moving up if you need to.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm getting the hang of this.
Good.
It sounds like navigating this prescription drug world really requires like
It does.
paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. Being informed is key, like we said before.
Right.
But we've covered so much ground, the different parts of Medicare, how to sign up, all these intricate details of Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
But there was one thing before we wrap up that I wanted to touch on that I saw in the materials you shared.
Go.
The Medicare and You 2025 handbook mentioned these programs that can help pay for Medicare.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Absolutely. So, Medicare can definitely put a dent in your budget.
Oh, yeah.
And thankfully, there are programs that can help, especially for those with limited income and resources.
Okay.
They can make a world of difference.
That's amazing. They mentioned something called Medicare savings programs. What are those?
So Medicare savings programs are run by each state,
Okay.
and they can help cover some of your Medicare costs, like your premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance.
Wow.
The level of assistance that you get really depends on your income and resources.
So it's like a safety net for folks who might be
Right.
struggling to afford it.
Exactly, allowing people to access that health care they need
Yeah,
without breaking the bank.
that's amazing. The handbook also mentions something called extra help.
Yes.
Specifically for prescription drug costs. Is that the same idea? Similar. But extra help is a federal program.
Okay.
And it's specifically designed to help people who are struggling to afford their Part D prescription drug costs.
Okay.
So it can help cover those premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance, just like the Medicare savings programs, but
It's for your prescriptions.
it's specifically for those prescriptions.
It's like having a partner in your corner helping you manage those costs.
Exactly. And extra help can drastically reduce those out-of-pocket medication expenses,
Wow.
which is huge for people on a fixed income.
That sounds like that could be life-changing for people,
Absolutely.
just knowing that that exists.
Absolutely.
Okay, so switching gears just a bit, the handbook also touched on like Medicare rights and protections.
Yes.
And I have to say, this section really piqued my interest.
Okay, good.
It mentioned this right to appeal decisions. Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so Medicare, you're probably picking up on this by now.
It's complicated.
It's a complicated world.
Yeah.
There are going to be times when you might disagree with a coverage decision. It could be about a service, a medical device, a prescription drug, whatever it is.
Okay.
You have the right to appeal that decision.
Okay.
Ask for a second look if you think a mistake has been made.
So you're not just stuck. Like, you have a voice.
Exactly. You have every right to present your case, try to get a different outcome.
That's good to know.
Don't be afraid to speak up.
The handbook also mentioned the importance of protecting your medical identity.
Yes.
That sounds kind of scary, honestly.
It is a growing concern, this medical identity theft.
Really?
It's when someone steals your personal information,
Oh, wow.
like your Medicare number, your name, your birth date, to get medical services,
Oh, gosh.
or even file fraudulent claims using your name.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it's not something to take lightly.
So what are some things that our listeners should watch out for to make sure they don't fall victim to that?
Be vigilant, treat your Medicare card like it's a winning lottery ticket, guard it carefully.
Always, always review your medical bills and those Medicare summary notices
Okay.
for any services or charges that just seem fishy, that you don't recognize.
So just be aware of what's happening with your own information.
Be proactive.
Huh.
Knowledge is your best defense.
Yeah.
If you even suspect something's off, report it to Medicare immediately.
Okay.
They're there to help.
Are there any other, telltale signs of potential scams that people should be on the lookout for?
Be wary of anyone who calls you out of the blue asking for your Medicare number
Okay.
or any other personal information.
All right.
Remember, Medicare will never contact you unsolicited like that.
Right.
And be very cautious about those free offers.
Okay.
Free services, free equipment. Those that sound too good to be true.
Right. If it sounds too good to be true,
They often are.
probably is.
Exactly. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
It's much better to err on the side of caution
Yeah.
when it comes to something like this.
This has been incredibly insightful, this whole deep dive. We really explored all that basic Medicare stuff,
You did.
those enrollment periods,
All those different parts.
tackled Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug coverage,
It's a lot.
uncovered programs that can help you pay for it, and even how to protect yourself.
Yes, protecting your rights, protecting your identity,
I'm exhausted, but in a good way.
as we should be.
But I also realized that even though we covered all of this, our listener probably still has questions
They probably do.
about their specific situation.
Of course.
Because it's one thing to talk about it generally,
Right.
but then when you start to apply it to your own life, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. And everyone's healthcare journey is unique.
Right.
There's no one size fits all.
Exactly. So it's about taking all this information
Absolutely.
and figuring out, okay, what's best for me?
That's where the real power is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Making those informed decisions for your own needs.
Exactly. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the world of Medicare, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this?
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And when it comes to something as important as your healthcare, especially with something like Medicare,
Right.
being informed is your greatest asset.
Totally.
So don't be afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Do your research, advocate for your needs.
Yeah. Love it. And if you need help,
Yes.
we talked about all those resources.
Yeah.
Your local SHPE, Medicare.gov.
They're there for a reason.
Yeah, just a phone call away.
Exactly. Don't go it alone. We're all in this together.
And on that note, this has been an amazing deep dive into Medicare. Thank you so much to our incredible expert for guiding us through this very complex world.
My pleasure.
And to our amazing listener, we hope you feel empowered and informed to tackle your own Medicare journey.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy exploring.